Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pipeline, the show where I interview creative and innovative people and learn about their projects. On this episode, my guest is Jeff Hoffee, founder of Hoffee Carbon Fiber Cases. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Hi, Scott. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. And how's your family doing during this time?
Oh, we're hanging in there. You know, I have two young girls at home, and they're doing some work at home for their schoolwork. But they all miss their friends, and they miss the band and those sort of activities. But they're doing well. Good
to hear that. So on Pipeline, my three main questions to my guests are: what's a project in the last 5 or 10 years that you're extremely proud of, or was very meaningful to you, or challenging? Two, what's a current project that you're involved in? And then finally, what's coming down the pipeline for you? What project are you looking forward to engaging in? So we'll start off with the first question. What's the last project in the last 5 or 10 years that you've been really proud of?
Well, 5 or 10 years, I think it's that is the project, the longevity. You know, last year was our 10th year in business, and
congratulations.
Thank you. You know, the majority of new businesses don't survive that long, so that's a project that is ongoing every day, and will continue to try to build on the brand that we have. So that project was to build a brand that is well respected and well known in the market of high-end guitars and string instruments. So we've faced a lot of challenges in those 10 years, and we've overcome them with the help of my team. And we're certainly facing another challenge today, but we're going to get through that as well, and hopefully be around for another 10 years.
Good to hear that. So, you know, when you were in the industry, and I'm just curious about how you anticipated this need for high-end cases.
Yeah, well, I was in the musical instrument business for all of my career, and cases were something that seemed to always be an issue. You know, it was something wasn't right. They didn't last, and not everyone was focused on having a good case. But when you talk about an expensive instrument, you need something that will protect that. So, as someone in the business, I just had a hard time even finding products like that were available. There were a few small companies around the world, and so I decided to make them myself. I had visited several case factories around the world, and I knew that the interior work, the hardware, things like that would not be that difficult to learn, but the making of the actual shell of the case was the real challenge.
Yeah. How long did it take to have that come to fruition?
Well, I thought it would be about 6 months, but it turned out it was almost 2 years to finally get it to the point that I thought it was going to be well received. And I didn't want to put something out there too early and get bad reviews or poor reputation. So I waited until I had something that I thought was really special.
Now, during those 2 years, was this you by yourself working in your garage, or start developing a team, or what?
Yeah, that's pretty close. It was a small little workshop that I had rented, basically a large garage space. But I worked by myself, and I tried to educate myself in the composites industry, both carbon fiber and fiberglass. So there was some information online, particularly about fiberglass. And I adapted some of those techniques and methods into the way I wanted to make cases. And I learned a lot from the boat building industry, and adapted those techniques and developed some of our own too. So it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of errors. and it was a trying time for sure. But eventually, I knew I had something.
Yeah. And from there you started growing a staff.
Yeah.
Um, are there certain characteristics you look for in the people that work with you?
Well, there can be. It depends. When I first started, uh, the orders started coming in immediately, and as soon as people heard about it, started talking about it on some forums, and so I started contacting friends and friends of friends, and I hired that way initially.
Okay.
A couple friends, and at that time, 10 years ago, we were entering the recession, and there were a lot of people looking for work. So it was not difficult at all to find people and to have a good selection of people that you could choose from. And
Mhm.
then within a few years, that seemed to change. And there was a point there where I would put out an ad for employees, and I would only get one or two responses.
Really?
So yeah, it became very difficult for a while there when the unemployment rate was so low that everyone was employed.
Now, are they mainly made up of fabricators, or do you have different roles?
We make everything in house, and the cases are made in molds, and so we have certain people that make the shells of the case, and certain people that assemble the case, riveting on latches and hinges, and then we have other people that work on the interior, cutting the fabric and foam and fitting them. There's a lot of work to do there. They're all custom fitted.
Hmm. And I can't imagine. I mean, if it were me and I was making a case for something as iconic and legendary as Willie Nelson's trigger, I would be pretty intimidated by that. How did you handle that? How did you go? And even if you could walk us through the process of,
Yeah.
you know, making a case for trigger.
Yeah, we've had a lot of well-known customers at this point, but Willie was one of my first. And I got a call from a guy named Dallas Wayne, and he's a musician, and he also is a host of a show on Sirius XM radio, Outlaw Country. And so I'd actually heard that channel, and when he called, I recognized his voice, and I didn't know where, but I knew this voice, and we were talking, and I said, "Are you on the radio?" And yeah, and so we became friendly, and he ordered a case, and he started talking about how he knew Willie, um, and I mentioned that, well, maybe we could make a case for trigger, and he thought that was a great idea. So he contacted Willie, and Willie's people contacted me, and we actually I gave it to him in person. He was doing a concert here in Joliet, and I met him backstage before the concert, and gave him a case and took some photos, and then watched the show. So yeah, it was a really neat experience.
How much did you know about the guitar, the dimensions, and what it required beforehand?
Well, I knew basically what it was, but we actually contacted the Martin Guitar Company, and they provided the specs for it. And so we had very accurate specs to do the fitting for that.
Wow. And what was Willie's response?
Well, I don't know if he was excited or not, but his crew was excited to have a nice case that was light and they could carry around for him. So,
Well, I guess if I were his crew too, I would want a secure case, because I wouldn't want to be the one to tell Willie something happened to
yeah, yeah. I mean, that guitar is going to be in a museum.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we were able to do that, and they still use it. I mean, they've ordered other cases for the same guitar, so it's still being used.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And you've worked with Paul McCartney, uh, Elvis Costello,
Yeah.
um, Steve Earle. It's just an amazing list of musicians.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You never know who's going to be on the phone when it rings. It's pretty exciting some days.
And have any of them taken a tour of your facility?
Well, no one of that level, but we've had a lot of musicians that stop by while they're on tour to get a repair or whatnot. But yeah, someone like that, I'll go to their show and take care of them there.
Nice, nice. So, what is a current project that you're working on that you really find engaging?
Well, we're working on a all new website right now. That's something that I started a few months ago, and I suspect we're going to have it ready to go live in maybe around 60 days.
Oh,
Yeah, I contacted a company and last fall, and I got a response almost immediately from the vice president of the company saying that they were so excited because he was a guitar player and he was a collector, and they actually had someone else on staff that played guitar, so they were all excited, and he was going to put his best designer on my project. So I was thrilled, and it's been great working with them. I've seen some of the work so far, and it looks great. It's going to be a fantastic tool for us. It's going to be all the options will be laid out. You can build your case on the site, check out, and everything is done right there. It's going to be a real advantage for us going forward.
will it remain hoffeecases.com?
Yeah, we have that URL, and we also have carbonfibercases.com as a URL. It all goes to the same website.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you having much business with, I guess, what I would call classically trained symphonic musicians, violinists, violists, cellists, stuff like that?
We have. I mean, they're classical guitar players for sure.
Right.
And we do make violin cases, but primarily our violin cases go to bluegrass players. We're well known in that genre. So yeah, we haven't really focused on the orchestral players that much.
So do you have cases that are ready to go? Like if I called up or got in contact and, I've got a 2015 Duesenberg, blah, blah, blah. You've got one. Do you have them ready to go already, or do you have to make them from scratch?
Yeah, I wish we could have some things available, but there's so many varieties of guitars and mandolins and banjos, and so it's just everything is custom made to order. Usually a 4 to 6 week turnaround time. I mean, there are, for example, if you needed just a standard dreadnought case,
Mm-hmm.
you can find that at one of our dealers. But anything else would be made. People like to choose their colors and options and all those things as well. So it's really a made to order item.
And you said you are you working with dealers? Is that throughout the United States or?
And we have a small group of dealers, in places where in music areas, Nashville, New York, Los Angeles, Tokyo. We have a small group of dealers, but again, due to the sort of the custom nature of it, a lot of people like to just have it ordered, directly from us. So we do that mostly.
Mm-hmm. And do you have, do you have any of your staff, are they guitarists or guitar techs?
Well, we've had a few over the years. We've had drummers and guitar players and some people that don't play any instruments. So we get a variety of characters in our crew there.
Now you're a drummer. Is there a need for high-end snare cases or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe a snare case, you're right, but most drummers, they don't fly with their drum kit, and they can rent them on tour and things like that, or use a house kit. So mm-hmm. I think the needs for drummers are different than guitar players.
Well, and speaking of traveling, are there any uh, air travel restrictions that you have to consider with guitar cases?
Yeah, well, the size of it, for one thing, whether it fits in the overhead or not, is a big deal. Um, and there are things like TSA locks, all those type of things that help our customers get through security with the case. And but other than that, it's trying to make it as tough as you can, because it's going to get, there's going to be a lot of abuse.
Yeah, I would be concerned if I didn't bring it, if I had to check it,
Yeah.
or not to speak poorly of the employees for the airlines, but I've looked out the window and seen the way that some luggage has been treated,
Yeah.
and I would be concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens. But I've noticed that quite a bit of the damage actually occurs when you check a case at the front of the airport, and it has to go through the conveyor belt system under the airport. All that machinery gets knocked around, beat up. That's really where a lot of damage happens. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Wow, amazing. So, you mentioned you've got this new website coming up. Is there a future project or something coming down the pipeline that you're excited about?
Yeah, there's a few things we're working on right now. We're working on trying to produce a case that's a little bit cheaper than what we have now. And we're working on different materials, different ways to make that case. I've tried a couple times in the past to make something a little more affordable, but not been all that successful. So I'm going to continue to try that. I'm also experimenting with some new options as far as incorporating some graphics onto the cases, logos, even pictures, that sort of thing, to even further customize the cases that we make. So there's always projects to work on.
Yeah, and speaking of projects, if my audience doesn't already know, Jeff is the drummer for the Bottle Tones from Carbondale, Illinois. I was lucky enough to be able to get up to Carbondale in, was it August?
Yeah.
For the Bottle Tone show at the, what may have been the last Sunset concert for a while.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. You guys killed it. It was so fun watching you. And what I think, what was fun for me too, was it was such a big crowd, and there were obviously young people there who had never, weren't even born yet when we were playing in the 90s, and they were into it. They were just having a blast. So how did you enjoy it, or was it a lot of work?
Oh my God, I loved it, Scott. It was amazing. And I also noticed those young people up there dancing and having a good time too. That made me feel really good, But it was fantastic. We worked on it. We were practicing for several months for that show, because it had been a long time since. I still play with some of those guys, but we don't play those songs anymore. We haven't for a long time. So we had forgotten lyrics, forgotten how the songs went, and so we had to relearn a lot of them. And then Brady lives in Texas, so we had to try to communicate with him, and so yeah, it took some work, but wow, it really paid off. It was a blast. We all just had a great time.
And I actually it was so cool that it was streaming as well, because I was up there, like I mentioned, but my wife couldn't join me, so she was watching the streaming portion, and she saw the glare of my bald head and knew that was me in the audience. It was great that it could, the audience could extend beyond the limits of Carbondale. That was so cool.
Right.
I was just so excited for you guys. That was awesome. Are there any plans for other Bottle Tones shows?
Well, I don't know. You never know. I mean, we'd love to do it again. We'll see. But the Alumni Association has my number, so we're happy to play down there again anytime.
Nice. And you said you are playing with some of the members, and
Yeah, a couple of the guys from the Tones I still play with now, and we're not playing currently, but we still practice and mostly just for fun, but we still love playing.
Do you have a name?
Called the Pallet Jacks.
Pallet Jacks.
Yeah.
And where do you all rehearse?
In Paul's basement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got a nice setup over there. About half the basement is all for the band, and we have our regular Sunday evening meetings there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you don't live far from Paul?
It's about 30 minutes. We're both in the suburbs here of Chicago. So.
Oh, nice. Nice. Great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on Pipeline. This has been great, not only catching up and hearing about your family, but, what Hoffee Cases has been through and what's coming down the road. I really enjoy having you on here.
Thank you, Scott. It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
All right. That's a wrap for this session of Pipeline. Please join us next time. Thank you.